Welcome to the Big World Made Small podcast for the adventure traveler. I'm thrilled you're here. My name is Jason Elkins, and in addition to being your host, I'm also a former U.S. Army paratrooper, third-generation commercial hot air balloon pilot, paramotor pilot, ex-Montana fly fishing guide, advanced open water scuba diver, and a full-time nomad that's visited more than 30 countries on 6 continents. As a seasoned adventure travel expert with a passion for creating and sharing meaningful experiences, I'm on a quest to impact the lives of adventure travelers, the tour operators they rely on, and the communities that host them. Every week, I bring you exclusive interviews with fascinating adventure tourism experts who have agreed to share their personal stories, favorite destinations, and some invaluable travel insights they've picked up along the way. We'll enjoy a casual conversation, create some connections, and likely share some laughs. It's my hope that by the end of each episode, this big world will feel just a bit smaller. Let's get started, shall we? Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Big World Made Small podcast for the adventure traveler. Today, we've got Alex Veka here with us. He's the founder of Vibe Adventures. It's not so much a Mexican company. He's in Mexico, but I know he does more than just Mexico. So we're going to have an interesting conversation about kind of his business. But Alex, welcome to the show. Happy to have you here.
Hi, Jason. Thanks a lot for inviting. And hi, guys.
Yeah, we're gonna have an interesting conversation. I read your bio and I spoke with you before, and you're kind of an interesting character. So I look forward to hearing more about that. And before we start talking too much about Vibe Adventures, let's go back in time a little bit. Let's time travel. I'd really like to get an understanding for how you got from wherever you were to where you are now. And I don't know how far back we need to go. How far back should we go?
I don't know. Maybe a lot of things get created in the childhood. So yeah, I think since I can characterize myself as a passionate traveler. Yeah, I travel to over 50 countries right now. I could travel more. Now I would say like I travel slightly less internationally. I travel a lot in Mexico. That's my second home for like the last 6 years. But as I remember myself, I was always I would say impassionate, very maybe even hyperactive kid, always like looking for some adventures, to go to seek to with the friends, and sometimes doing a little bit dangerous things that moms, get worried about, and I think there was like, as I remember myself, there were like 2 moments that kind of like had a big influence on me. I'm originally from Belarus, Eastern Europe, so that's a country which suffered from the nuclear pollution during Chernobyl catastrophe. 80% of all the pollution actually was settled down on Belarusian territory, and my family, come from this part of the area. So when I was a kid, there was like a lot of programs that when Belarusian kids would go abroad to Europe, Germany, Netherlands, Poland, whatever. Kind of like an exchange, so it was like a big, for me, it was a big impression. I don't know, I was about, I think, 10 years old, and I went to Netherlands for one month. And, the kid from post-socialistic country, which in the 90s struggled, to get stuff in the supermarkets and all this kind of stuff, for me was like, wow, there is another world around it. And I want to know more about it, Why they didn't tell me this exists, no? So since then, I decided, okay, I want to go and travel and get to know the world as much as I can. I want to study my university abroad. And that was kind of like a push for me to go and and study at least English, because in Belarus, everybody learns English at school, but not everybody can actually speak. So for me, it was like one of the moments that, okay, that's it. That's what I want to do with my life. And the second moment was in the end of my high school. By coincidence, I always loved geography and like history, all this kind of stuff. I was never like a math, physics, all this kind of like exact sciences guy, but everything that could bring me dreaming about destinations, like all subjects, history, geography, sociology, whatever, it fascinated me. So there was a coincidence in the 8th, 9th grade. Since ever, I was like devouring all this kind of encyclopedias. My mom was buying me all this kind of stuff, and I would read about all these exotic countries and travel in my mind and so on. So I started, doing geography, but professionally at school, and I could advanced, and at some point, like even participated with some honors in International Geography Olympiad when I was in the 11th grade. That hypothetically gave me a chance to even like to go and study without entry exams in a lot of European universities. So that was for me also like, oh, what do I want to do with my life? It's like, I want to do it with geography. So I had like a chance in Belarus. It would be, okay, you can either go and be like a geologist, or you can be a science geographist, or you can be a teacher, or you can be there was like, how is it called? Geoscience, the maps and this kind of stuff. A little bit more was development and programming. I was for me, hey, stop. It's a little bit too exact science for me. And then there was this stuff about tourism. Like, wow, that's something I love to do. And I want to help people travel as much as I can. So let's study tourism. And at some point, I was lucky as well to get a scholarship from Czech government, from Czech Republic, to study there. And there was like an university, Prague Economics University, that have like tourism as a major. And that's how I appeared in tourism, like working in the travel industry.
That's very, very cool. A couple questions that come to mind. You mentioned specifically Chernobyl and radiation fallout, all that stuff from the disaster there. And then immediately followed that with they had programs for kids to go travel to other parts of Europe. Were those two things tied together? Was this an idea like we need to get the kids out of here because it's contaminated? I'm curious why these programs existed, and was that tied to the Chernobyl?
Yeah, they were tied to Chernobyl because definitely there were a lot of negative consequences for the health of the population. In general, the average length of life in these areas, the propensity for some cardio diseases and so on is much higher. So there was like a program when thousands of Belarusian kids, especially in the 90s, when the political situation in Belarus was slightly more democratic and more pluralism of political opinions there. So a lot of kids would go there. In the 2000s, it already stopped because also, the government saw kind of like a risk in it, because kids would get different opinions and would spread it to their families and so on. So at the moment, if you look at Amnesty International or something, Belarusian, let's say, political system is not considered very democratical and very with a lot of freedom of speech. Yeah. So at that point, it was programs to make kids get healthier, better nutrition, better access to medical care, and so on. So, and I was lucky actually to participate in some of those programs, and that's something that opened my eyes that there is the whole world over there.
Which is exactly why they stopped some of those programs, because kids like you were going out there, there's a whole world out there, and why do I go to the grocery store in other places and it's full of all kinds of stuff, and then when I go back home, it's we're having a hard time getting a hold of things. And I could see where the political system like that may want to pull in the reins a little bit. So, but it was too late for you. You'd already gone out and experienced it. What did your family think about you on many levels at the beginning? Were they excited to see you go have opportunities to visit other places? It sounded like your mom was buying you encyclopedias. It sounded like she was encouraging you. Tell me more about that, about your parents and your family and how they kind of viewed your wanderlust.
My mom she's a history teacher in school.
Oh, okay.
So maybe partially I was kind of like my mind was infected by this because I saw all these books, and when I was a kid, and I would say when I was a kid I was a little bit more introvert. So I liked spending time by myself. I was always in contact with nature, like all my summers I would spend in the countryside with, where my grandparents and my mom come from, so agriculture, having garden, being able to go in the fields and the corn and in the wheat, and just like sometimes with friends, sometimes alone, and you imagine all this kind of stuff. And of course, the books were about my best friends. I would every day, maybe sometimes I could stay the whole day and eat and literally like read one book and all this kind of stuff. So my parents, they come from Soviet Union, so they know what's the difference, to have freedom in all kind of aspects, political, economic, freedom of doing business, and not having it. Yeah, of course, the 90s was like a transformative period, very harsh for people when they move from one system to another. But they definitely see much more benefits and in the liberal economy. So they were always incentivizing me and supporting me, and like, oh yeah, sure, study English. Oh yes, go and study abroad. There is so much that you can do that we were not given chance to do. So they were supporting me in all situations.
I'm curious because, I've traveled and visited enough places to understand sometimes when parents encourage their kids to learn English, go travel the world, go do something, sometimes, well, on one hand, there could be the fear of losing their kids might never come back. And then on the other hand, there's maybe that idea that the kids will go out, make money and send money back to help support the family. But I have never really had a conversation with someone from former Soviet Union about this. So I'm just curious. Was there some of that? Did you ever feel like as your parent, like, go make money, go be successful so you can help us back here? Or was it more how would you describe it? Maybe not you, but maybe other people around you. I just want to get some insights on that.
Yeah. Both of my parents, they come from the countryside. So countryside, basically, my grandparents, they did agriculture. Working like in the village. Maybe doing some other stuff. For example, for my parents' side, they both were teachers, of music and of Belarusian language and literature, my grandparents. But what separates people, at least in Belarus, but I assume also in Ukraine, Russia, all kind of like countries, like countryside of post-Soviet Union, is people are very independent. They got used to harsh conditions, so they never expect, let's say, we want our kids to go away and then like support us. So, for example, I remember till now my parents, or like my granny, the last granny, one of two, and all the way until she never wanted to be dependent. She's like, no, I walk slow. I want to do my stuff. It is my home. I'm going to stay here, come to visit me, but I don't want to be in the city. I don't want to be limited. I don't want to be dependent on someone and feel like I'm, and my parents are the same. So whenever I want to give them money or like, I don't know, give kind of like the expensive gifts. The only expensive gift that I, giving them and not putting them, to know before is buying them tickets to visit me here, or, we meet somewhere and we travel because they love traveling as well. And, but yeah, they are these kind of people like, no, we are independent. This is yours, all the way until like my 30s even. They wanted to, to support me economically and like, hey, let's do this. Let's invest here. Like, what are you going to do with your life? This kind of like situation when people from, generation of my parents, their idea is like, oh, the happiness is stability, is my home, is my work, is maybe my car, my country house. And like, oh, that's the life. Maybe I go to vacations 2-3 times per year. That's it. Now with globalization and the world getting smaller, the, newer generations, for them, let's say the value is completely opposite. Being stuck to one place, for example, for me, like having a home, like investing in home and like actually having there, it's kind of like even impeding me. It's not making me feel safer. It feels me like a little bit limited in my life. I would maybe like prefer to, I can rent Airbnb for 1 month, which doesn't cost too much, and like stay like 1 month, half a year in different countries in the world, but feel this freedom. But for my parents, they never understood it. So till now, they were like, hey, what do you want to do with your life? I have a family. I'm living here. I have a company. There are people working with me. Like, what do you mean? Like, oh, but you need to buy a house. And it's like, I don't want to buy a house. I can afford buying a house. No, but I don't want it. It makes me feel limited. I want to invest in other things. So that's the thing.
I get it. I get it completely. That's it's a generational thing, but also not necessarily just generational. It's also a personality thing. I do the Airbnb thing, and quite often I'll speak with either friends back home or more specifically, the local people that I meet, and I explain. They say, well, where do you live? Where's your house? Well, this week I live in this neighborhood. Next week I might live in a different town. And oftentimes the conversation, I don't know why, but oftentimes the conversation comes up and they're like, well, what do you pay? how much do you pay to stay there? If a lot of people want to know that. I don't know if they're just trying to judge my financial status or what. And it's usually, from my perspective, I always go for the place that I can afford, which means it's usually a small room and a house. And anyway, I'll tell them, and they're like, well, you could buy a house. You could, rent a house for a year. You could have a house. It'd be much cheaper. You're spending so much money by renting these rooms in these houses. And I've just, but I don't want to. I value that freedom to wake up on a Monday morning and decide, well, do I want to stay another week or do I want to go pick a different place? So I pay a little bit of a premium for that. But in the long run, I feel like it's, I'm the same way. I get that. I'm curious, Alex. I don't know why I'm going to ask you this, but are you familiar with the term ADD or ADHD, attention deficit disorder?
Yeah, I'm familiar with
it. Because something about you is resonating with me, and it's and I've kind of decided I must have ADHD because I like the constant stimulation, and for me it's met through traveling and having experiences and all this stuff. And I'm not going to ask you if you have it, but I wanted to see the look on your face. And
I'm going to investigate more. I mean, I might have a bunch of stuff in my head, but this could be. I mean, because it's the same. I mean, I feel when I'm in the same place, it's not just being bored. It's just feeling something is missing. This kind of like hormones. They don't appear in your brain, and they don't. You need it. It's just like sometimes you go to work, but you take different route. No, I'm not doing the same one. It's just like routine. It really kills me. But if I can go outside of the city ideally every week, at least every couple of weeks, that's something that helps a lot, just like going to nearby town. In Mexico, there is like a program of magic towns, like for tourism. I don't care. Sometimes like if there is a little town that has a church, a main square, and there is a market with, delicious Mexican food, homemade food and micheladas, that's the most important, Sometimes good things are simple.
I'm resonating so much with what you're saying. I'm that type as well. It's like I notice when I'm in a place too long and then I get on a bus to go somewhere, I go to the airport to go somewhere, and man, I just get this hit of dopamine. And it's just like this, like, wow, I feel so alive when I'm going on to the next place, or when I see something beautiful for the first time, whether it's coming over a mountain pass or a small child in one of the pueblos in the park or in the square, or just a family. I just like and I don't think a lot of people in my life can really relate to that. A lot of my family is like, they really don't understand. What am I doing traveling around? It sounds like you've got the same affliction, whatever you want to call it. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's, I don't remember the word, but it's like wanderlust. It's this desire to explore and to go see new things. And I was reading about it, I think last weekend, and there's an actual, they have an official diagnosis in the diagnostical manual for psychiatric things in the US. And it's that diagnosis is actually in there. And it's basically this insatiable desire to have new experiences, see new things, and travel at the expense of stability, family, finances. I'm like, holy cow, that sounds like me. But anyway,
there is also I think there is this measure where it's at expense of something, where it basically is aligned with your life, with your family, with your life goals, and especially if some people can do it like as a lifestyle with their families, that's something amazing. For example, for kids, I have a small kid of 10 months. It's so, there are proofs that, the kids, they learn by practice. When they travel, not by going to stimulation classes and all this kind of stuff, by going and actually practicing things themselves. So, and also for adults as well, our brains are trained or are created this way. We learn by the stuff. So if one can work distantly and combine benefits of everywhere, why not?
Well, I think it's just it's when I say at the expense of, let's say example, at the expense, I have a wanderlust and I have this desire to go travel to the expense of my relationships with other people. Well, it really depends on who those other people are. If you are in a long-term romantic relationship, you have a family with somebody who doesn't like to travel and has no desire to travel and wants the house and the dog and the cat and the fence and the cars and all that stuff, then there's an expense to your relationship. If on the other hand, your partner has the same desire to travel and values it in the same way, then there's no expense to that. It's something that you're sharing together. So it's an interesting way to look at that. So you've got one kid, right? Okay. And so you, I don't know, your wife, your partner, the other people in your life, are they all on board with this traveling and this passion for exploring?
Yeah. My wife, she is as well very passionate about traveling, and I feel that my son as well.
Yeah.
He has this, I don't know, maybe it's because of his age, but this impassioned desire to explore everything around. So
those big eyes that are just taking it all in, right? Isn't that exciting? That's so cool to see. And I've talked to so many people like, oh, well, when our kids are older, we'll go travel, when they get to the point where you think they will appreciate it, they will not appreciate it, because then they're worried about their friends, their family, their friends primarily, boyfriends, girlfriends back home, whatever. And it's not nearly as much fun to travel with a 16-year-old if they haven't been raised to embrace that. So, how did you meet your wife?
Here in Mexico City.
So she's Mexican?
Yeah, she's Mexican.
She's from there. All right. Very cool. All right. Have you had the opportunity to travel with her outside of Mexico very often?
Yeah, we 2 years ago we went for 2 months in Europe. I was participating in. Our team was participating, but I was the one represented the team. As a startup, not always. There is a chance, for expenses for many people. So I was participating in Finland in a startup accelerators called Startup Journey in Turku, actually the oldest startup accelerator in Finland. So we went there, and she followed me. There was a chance. She's like, hey, let's go to live on because we have been always talking hey, let's go to live on the beach for 1 month. Just get away from Mexico City. Yeah, let's do it. I'm bored with my job, she told me. So, okay, good. So let's go, because I can work remotely. No, more, that's easier. Yeah, let's do it. But then there is this chance. Would you like to go to Europe instead? For 2 months, we're going to be on the beach, but it's a Baltic Sea. It's not, the color is a little bit different, not like Tulum and Cancun. It's slightly cafecito, a little bit brownish maybe, but maybe not that salty, but still it's a sea. And oh yeah, let's do it. It was first time in Europe. So we did for 2 months. We lived in Finland with, we traveled around. So it's so easy with Ryanair, with Air, all these low cost companies. And so actually we have a plan to now with our son to go travel ideally to Europe. I would say in autumn for a couple of months, just to see how it works. And ideally maybe doing it 50-50 between 2 continents. My parents are there, and I would like my son to see his grandparents and spend quality time with them, but at the same time her parents. But we can do it. Summer is good for Belarus. It's a nice time. Winter is good for Mexico. It's a nice time. So,
it sounds like a dream situation set up. So that's very cool. What was it about Mexico that drew you to Mexico? Maybe it was her.
Oh, no.
Why are you there?
Yeah, that's it. I'm here because my first wife is Mexican. Yeah, we are not together anymore, but we met in China. Actually, she was doing a internship in the Mexican consulate, and I was working in high-tech Chinese company, and we met. It has been a long relationship, and at some point, we got married and went to Mexico with an idea to grab an old Ford Expedition van, up to 8 people, make a website, start a blog, do all this kind of work away, volunteering, eco farming, and doing some freelance just to make it happen, have tents, food, drinks, and just live the life without thinking, we need too much money. No, you don't need. You just need desire, friends, and a little bit of money, So that's where the idea of Vibe Adventures came from. We bought a website. We wanted to make a blog to actually do a road sharing project. It was never supposed to be a commercial project because Ford Expedition, I don't know if you ever saw Ford Expedition of 2024, it consumes quite a lot of gas. Okay. So we wanted to share literally we were 4 people. me, my first wife, and like two friends of us, like a couple, would like to go there. But hey, we have 4 more places. Let's put online on the different platforms. Like, guys, this is our plan. 1 month in Belize, 1 month in Guatemala, 1 month here. We go blah, blah, blah. We have work away. Everything is ready. You just join us and you chip in a little bit. So in the end, everybody's happy, because it was not supposed to be a commercial project. It was supposed to be just like an entertainment lifestyle project to go. The goal was to go from Mexico to Argentina, Brazil, cross to Windhoek, Namibia, and then all the way to Belarus and Serbia. Our friends are Serbians. But then there was a migration crisis, and it was 2018. And our friends couldn't come, and we also had some issues, some financial issues, and so on. And then wow. But we had already the routes ready. So these routes are actually gave basis to some of the multi-day adventures we have in Central America and Mexico, because literally we sat down and we saw what we want to see, what kind of routes we're going to take. And that became a basis for the company, actually.
Very cool. Yeah. No, that's very, very cool. So that was said 2018 around then. So we're talking about 6 years or so you've been working on that.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. And you mentioned that you were working for a high-tech company in China. So I know from our last conversation, you're really kind of into the tech stuff. We spoke a little bit about some of the digital marketing stuff that you're doing with the website. And I know kind of, I don't know, but I believe that one of your goals is to make booking experiences easier and all that stuff. So where did the tech stuff come into the mix? Where in your life did you really get into the tech stuff? Because you mentioned earlier you didn't like exact science type of stuff. History, sociology, that type of thing. But
yeah, it came all in the last year of my master degree. Again, I was a coincidence, and I was dating a Taiwanese girl, and I got interested in Asian culture. I took classes of Chinese, multicultural communication, and then at some point, we took different roads, but I still had this goal, crazy goal. I want to go to China. And as far as my preferred travel style was hitchhiking, backpacking, night trains, and couch surfing and hostels, basically because that's what I could afford at this point. I did the same in China. It wasn't crazy. It was a nice experience. People don't know what is hitchhiking there. I made a card where I would say, hey, I'm a poor student from Europe, and please don't take me to the bus station. The only reason why I'm here is just because I'm going this way. If you need to turn, just you turn, but leave me where you need to turn, and I go further away. Because if you don't, they would bring you to the bus station because they care. Chinese people are very friendly. They want to help you, and especially if you're a foreigner. So
and once you get to the bus station, it's really hard to hitchhike because everybody looks at you like you're at the bus station. Why?
Yeah, would you? And sometimes it just takes you so much time to get back and so on. But I went to China, and I loved it. It's wow, coming from this comfortable, cozy, warm Europe where all this social care and benefits and then work and predictability, and you come to China, the technology is like the bullet train, and then there is a restaurant 3-star Michelin, which costs you half of a house, and then and there is this little stand where they sell you mian or rice, and you can eat for $2, and you cross the road. The taste is more or less the same, but you pay $100. It's wow, that's I love it. It's so dynamic. This country is amazing. There is everything. And it's whoa, I want to stay here. And I came back and I started looking for the jobs and everything. At that time, since I remember myself, since my student years, I have been always working. Mostly, it's I was working in hospitality, in restaurants, in reception, but my last jobs were kind of marketing, sales, BD related, in a tour operator and the event agency. So it's okay, there is high tech, they produce all kind of stuff. Let's apply to one of these brands that I wear, that I used to call, and let's apply. I speak the language, and and I applied, and I got the job, and I came, cool. And I was why not? Because for me, always it's kind of my life goal is whenever you have a challenge, it's an opportunity to learn. It's just go across the borders and so on. And I ended up there. It was nice. It was a nice experience. And yeah, that's how afterwards I came into my next job. I was in a startup as a commercial director, and already the next step was like, oh, when I came to Mexico, it was, let's do something by our own. But the idea was, again, it was Vibe Adventures, but it was not supposed to be a commercial project at the very beginning.
Oftentimes the things that happen that are surprises. Well, it was supposed to be this, it turned into that. I mean, those are the great things for probably, I speak for myself and probably for someone like you, because I feel like we've got some similarities. Is there anything that kind of happened along the way that you absolutely regret that you'd like to share with our listeners? Maybe somebody's thinking they want to get into tourism. Maybe they're already in tourism, or just maybe they're just curious, like buying the van or whatever. Were there any moments that you're like, yeah, I kind of wish I could go back and not do that?
Not really. I mean, I feel grateful for all the ups and downs in my life, because that's exactly where I am now. I mean, things definitely could be different, but what if doesn't exist, it's what's like conditional mode. It's good. It exists in grammar, but not in life, So at the very beginning, it's not a regret, but it was kind of like a lesson I took. I like the idea of hospitality, mostly, hotels, restaurants. So I started working like 3, 4, 5-star properties. I was like, hey, I wanted to experience this world of the hospitality. And it's definitely, it's nice, it's just like about, recently I was reading this book by, I think it's called Unreasonable Hospitality by, I think Bill, I forgot the Gandara, or there was this. And it took me back to my student years when, this journey. So I was kind of like, I wanted to build a career in hospitality. But at some point I realized, no, it limits me too much. You need to be there in the property. It doesn't really matter what is it, like 5-star luxury hotels of the world, or it's like whatever, but you need to be there. And if you want to take your vacations, it's like you need to ask for it.
During the off season when nobody wants to go anyway.
Yeah. That's why at some point when I was lucky, to start working in a tour operator, there was a Greek tour operator kind of opening a regional office in Czech Republic, and I was recruited there. And at the very beginning, there is so much stuff to do. You do this and you do that, and you do copywriting, you do business development, you do a little bit of marketing. It was like, I'm so glad I had this opportunity. And I realized, that's it. I want to go this way. I want to do the tour operator stuff. At some point, I want to open a tour operator. And in my school, in the business school, there was a subject that would be called management of tour operators. And we had to make a seasonal paper about hey, what would be the tour operator. So the idea was actually to build a tour operator, authentic, local, small group operator. I didn't know all about this. I mean, only then when I came to Vibe Adventures, I saw there are all these kind of big companies over there from who you can learn, or you can at least see as a benchmark on the quality and what's being done. But at that point, I was like, no, I want it this way. And the idea was okay, but the region would be Eastern Europe, where I come from, because still at that point, there are two regions that are kind of underdeveloped in, incoming tourism so far. One is Latin America. It's probably 9% of international tourism. And another one is exactly this post-Soviet country. Yeah. And in Asia. Yeah. So that would be the post-Soviet countries. It's still terra incognita for a lot of Europeans, Americans, I don't know, people from the developed world, which currently constitute the biggest proportion of international, travelers. But life brought me in Mexico, and the project was the same idea was actually executed in Mexico.
All right.
With the same goal.
That's very cool. And I love that when I asked you the question, are there any regrets or any of that you look at? I heard you say the word limit. I felt like hospitality would be too limiting. Earlier in the conversation, you're talking about buying a house might be too limiting. And limits are an interesting thing, just psychologically, how people look at them and how much it shapes their lives when they feel like this is the limit and I need to live within this limit. They have one type of life. When you look at the limit and say, ooh, I don't like that limit. I need to get past that limit. You have a totally different type of life. And, and it is, I just acknowledging that you've mentioned the word limit a couple of times in the conversation. And I'm not surprised that you've been to 50 plus countries and have had quite an interesting life, because you obviously look at limits differently than some people do. There's no knock on it either way, but, so what's your big mission right now, either personally or with your business? What's kind of on the horizon that you're willing to share, or that would be appropriate to share?
Our big mission at the moment is to simplify and make it easier booking adventure holidays for more people worldwide. Yeah. So far, we have been doing tours. We have been organizing tours, like small group, private tours in Mexico and the region. And at some point, we started partnering with local small operators, qualified, vetted, like high quality local operators that basically share our vision, let's say, of bringing these local authentic experiences, not like big groups and all this kind of stuff. And right now we are on a track to make it more scalable. Yeah, we saw there was like an issue that everybody knows there are like marketplaces, and like you can make or like online travel agencies. You can go to Expedia, to Kayak, and you book your flight and then the hotel, and that's mostly it. Maybe I rent a car, but it's still just like logistics, it's not about experiences. It's not about actually tours. I prefer the word experience instead of tour, and adventure instead of multi-day tour. Yeah, but there is nothing about this. It's like a skeleton. You don't get like, then you need still like to organize a lot of stuff, but not everybody has time, skills, desire. Statistically, a lot of people are like very tiring, and like maybe me and you, we have a little bit more passion and energy to go, and we don't have a fear of going. But a lot of people, they do have fear to go and explore, and they would wait for their friends, and then the friends cancel, and then they go traveling. They don't see the world. They get stuck in the same place, and I think that's a huge problem. Yeah, and but there are a lot of companies that do adventures all around the world. Solo travelers can go there. So there are tours, there are flights, and sometimes you can search, but then there are no flights for this, or the flights are too expensive. Like you go to, I don't know, to Radar or Intrepid Travel, and they like, wow, this is a nice tour, Thailand, boom, 30% discount. Like, but let's see the flights, and like, wow, that's like 3 times of the tour. No. Mm-hmm. So our goal, the product that we are actually launching in September, October of this year, is actually to combine the inventory of flights with the inventory of multi-day adventures from thousands of small group adventure operators around the world, and make it easier for the person to book and not only get the best possible adventures in terms of the quality, because it's possible to filter it by reviews and to compare it, but also in real time through dynamic packaging, combine it with the flights and to find the best budget-friendly possibility. For example, somebody lives in Mexico City and want to go to, I want to go to Venice. That's my goal. But I have time in the end of August only. And I put where I fly from, I put the place which I want to visit, and I put the dates. And it will give me all possible combinations for these exact dates, for all adventures, multi-day adventures, maybe run by different operators that could that visit Venice. Some of them, they start in Venice, some of them finish, somewhere it's just like somewhere on the way. Mm-hmm. And you can sort it by price, by reviews, by popularity, and book it as a package. Yeah, so this is like this dynamic packaging. They have been always there for, I call them boring holidays, like where you get your flight, your 5-star hotel in Dominicana and Cancun or Los Cabos or like wherever else. And the only thing that you actually see is your restaurant with a buffet, your pool, and animation in the evenings. That's all what you know about the country. And then, but I think that it's so. I mean, it's so much waste of time in my perspective, and more and more people are actually recognizing it right now that there is another way of traveling, a way where you can actually see the country, you can feel it, because the people, the nature, not being limited and imprisoned in this high quality, nice hotel, but you actually can go outside of the bubble and feel and live and experience stuff. So that's right. Our big goal.
No, that makes a lot of sense. So what I hear you saying is, like, I want to go, I've got some time in August. I want to go from here to there, and I want to do something other than just sit in a hotel. So it just comes back and it gives you a bunch of options that you can filter and sort by. I'm curious, from your perspective, I'm just curious what you think. From your perspective, what's the big difference between kind of what you're planning to do and somebody reaching out and speaking with a travel agent and having the travel agent do all that legwork? I know you've thought this through. Yeah. So I'm just curious kind of what your thoughts are on that.
It's, I would say this is a substitute of the agent somehow. Not exactly. Nobody can substitute a human. It's a different thing. But if we talk about different audiences, I would say pre-millennial population, right? They tend to book, maybe due to traditions, maybe due to habits, they tend to book things more with their agents. Everybody has an agent, and the agent have contracts with all kind of like companies, or maybe they have account in the marketplaces, online travel agencies. They can book there, and they can book the whole stuff, and maybe they get commission from there. That's how the agents work in the end, like normally the suppliers of service, how they do. But it somehow like limits, and it appears pretty well for pre-millennial population. It works well, yeah. But for millennial and post-millennial population, they expect different experience. They expect independent experience where they have no limits of needing to contact something, waiting until this person gives a quote, give them 2-3 quotes, and then come back and here they want to book everything now in 5 minutes, 10 minutes.
Yeah. So they go on to the next thing in their life. They sit down and want to do it all at once.
Yeah, 30 options. I want to read the reviews. I want to sort them by A, Z, and B to C if I need. And I want to make my qualified decision, not wait and not being dependent on anybody. So this is kind of like the first step. Of course, then it's necessary to provide human support, because very often, I see these options, good reviews, and the price is similar, and the airline is like, okay, the check luggage included, and blah blah blah. But hey, I need a human to call. But it's a much quicker decision making process than going with an agent, and it appeals to slightly different demographics.
And I don't know. I'm going to guess that once your platform's up and rolling the way you just described it, because I believe there's travel agents and definitely tour operators that listen to the show. I suspect if an agent wanted to use your platform, they could do that as well. So if somebody that normally works with a travel agent, I mean, if I was a travel agent and could go to a platform like that and do that on behalf of my clients that weren't maybe as comfortable doing it online or whatever, I suspect a travel agent could use that as well, probably make their lives easier.
Yeah, definitely. We have it on the roadmap, I would say, for the next year to add this feature like an agent's portal, because in the end, whatever, let's say, tendencies and changes, maybe disruption, the whole economy and everything is changing. But travel industry has its own rules and distribution structure that will be working. Yeah, so for many years, and we are not here to break. We are here to add an extra value, and for all possible stakeholders, including travelers directly, but also the agents. Yeah, at some point. But yeah, I would say this is the feature we foresee for the next year.
Very, very cool. What's your favorite thing about Mexico?
Life. It's lively.
Yeah.
There is life everywhere. I mean, at the night, in the morning, in the evening. Sometimes you cannot sleep because of that, but there is life.
Stimulation is
exactly
experiences, right? And sometimes laying in your bed and listening to fireworks or mariachi bands or whatever you've got outside can be quite stimulating as well. I mean, it's so many times. I'm in Colombia right now, and I spend a lot of time in Latin America. Mm-hmm. And yeah, there's sometimes I get waken up in the middle of the night by the garbage truck. The garbage truck likes to go around in the middle of the night and honk his horn every time he stops. And I just wake up thinking, oh my gosh, I'm so happy I'm here. It's just so much energy, and I very, very, very seldom get upset by the energy. So I've spent some time in Mexico as well. What's your favorite type of taco?
That's complicated.
That's very complicated. I know. That's like, where's your favorite place to visit? What's your favorite taco?
There are so many. I mean, there is hardly any taco I don't like. But I would say that taco árabe, like in Puebla, like the city of Puebla, like 2 hours away, and Cholula, if somebody can visit, that's where it actually comes from, Puebla, Cholula, some of the places. So there was this like migration of Lebanese and Syrians, like the Christians from there. In the beginning of the 20th century, when all this, like the First World War, Ottoman Empire being dismantled and so on, so people came over here, and they were normally businessmen, or like they knew, they started their businesses, and or even like before in the end of the 19th century. So they brought this idea of, like kind of like kebab, and, you got this meat, and there was like a special way how they would prepare it. And as far as they were Christian, they were okay actually in using pork for this. Yeah. So then tacos al pastor, very famous ones, it's tacos árabes with a slightly Mexicanization of this adobe sauce, right? Because original ones, they are not. So I really like tacos árabes, but I love tacos de cabeza with a very good cochinita pibil, amazing as well, like the Yucatan style. Very often in the street, they ask you tortilla, flour tortilla or corn tortilla, the harina or the maíz. And sometimes I would go with the harina, especially when it's, what's the name? There is, suadero, which is like beef, but a little bit more fatty, and softer because of this. If you're okay about high calorie food, that would be my probably like a way to go. It would be sua queso. So it's like a Mexican combination of suadero with queso with cheese, and they put it in it's like gringa, like tortilla, flour tortilla, and it's something really, really nice with guacamole sauce.
Alex, you mentioned the word gringa. Kind of, which is my understanding. It's the flour tortilla, the light colored flour tortilla that is probably more popular in the U.S. than corn tortillas. Is there a connection between the word gringa and a person of light skin complexion that comes from the U.S. Of a feminine nature? Like a gringa would be a white woman from the U.S.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, it would be like a white female American, no? Or sometimes any North American, no?
Or just from North. Yeah, it does. Yeah, could be any color, right?
It might have. I'm not 100% sure about the etymology of this word, but I think there is a connection with the North, and especially like with the States, because for example, if you go to the north of Mexico, like this stripe of the states around the border, Sonora, California, and so on, people don't really eat that much corn tortilla. And if you're actually they eat flour tortilla. If you're kind of like used to corn tortilla and you live in the center of Mexico, in the south or wherever, it's kind of like complicated to find for you that you would call it good tortillas. It's not the same taste because people don't really do it, So if you go in the street, you actually buy tacos with flour tortilla. And North Mexicans, they are mostly, there is like like in the south of Mexico, people are darker and shorter. And in the north of Mexico, people are higher and they are whiter. And they eat actually flour tortillas, not corn tortillas. I mean, they do as well, but most of people, they don't really eat corn tortillas. So there is like I think that's where the etymology comes from.
I figured there must, because the first time I saw it, I believe was probably in Mexico City, maybe Puerto Vallarta, I'm not sure. And I just remember thinking, that particular option is for the gringos, like tacos de gringa or quesadilla de gringa or what. I don't remember all of it, but I remember thinking that, that must be for the people from up north.
Not necessarily.
It's really good.
It's a dish, actually. So, I mean, if you go in Mexico City, everywhere you can see in like taco place, there will be gringa. Gringa is basically 2 flour tortillas, and inside you have meat with cheese, which is actually something delicious. I like the
kind of like a quesadilla, right? Isn't it basically?
It's basically a sincronizada with like in 2 tortillas from 2 sides, and inside it's like it's filled with cheese and at least cheese and meat. Maybe you could add some vegetables, whatever.
It's so good.
For me, one of the best as well.
We're going into it's about 1 o'clock here, so I'm like lunchtime. I'm getting hungry. I guess that's why I asked that question. And now I'm much hungrier. And unfortunately, here in where am I? Bucaramanga, Colombia, there's not a lot of taco stands, so I'll have to probably wait till my next trip to Mexico. Alex, we've discussed a bunch of different things, covering a bunch of different topics. I'm curious, is there anything I forgot to ask or should have asked, or anything that you want to make sure that our listeners know about either your views on travel the world or your business, or anything like that we should touch on before we wrap it up?
No, I think we discussed quite exactly a lot of stuff. Just like, guys, if anytime you want to go to Mexico and Central America, check our website, vibeadventures.com. I hope you could find something nice from there. Or if in the end of the year, starting from the end of the year, you're planning to go somewhere further away, and you want to take this adventure holiday, actually with like organized adventure, when you go with a local guide in a van with a small group of people from around the world, actually discover the place the way it is. Check as well vibeadventures.com. It's going to be available there.
Very cool. We've got that. We'll have that in the show notes for anybody that wants to click on it. And as you expand and do some kind of disruptive things in the industry, I suspect any other tour operators or travel agents that are listening to this, I would encourage them to reach out to you as well. Just really enjoyed the conversation with you, Alex. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to speak about Eastern Europe, Mexico, tacos, technology, China, your wonderful wife. I know we mentioned a couple other things. Maybe you should say how much you love your wife right now before we end the call. So if she does listen to this, and I think you're lucky to have found someone that's willing to put up with your bullshit, Alex.
Yeah. So,
because I know it's difficult when you have this affliction of the wanderlust. Sometimes that makes it difficult on other people in our lives. So give her a big hug, and thanks, Alex. Appreciate you.
Yes, thanks a lot, Jason, for having me here. And for everyone who listened to us, thanks for your patience in to listening a little bit of everything. I would say sometimes call it a mental, not mental, but diarrhea of thoughts sometimes.
Gum
and but I hope you guys enjoyed it.
You got a lot out. I hope they did as well. I hope they're still listening, and look forward to collaborating on some projects with you in the future. Thanks, Alex.
Yes.
Have a great day.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Bye.
I trust you enjoyed listening to the conversation as much as I enjoyed recording it. If you're enjoying the Big World Made Small podcast, please take a moment to tell the algorithm by subscribing and posting a review so that others can benefit as well. I also invite you to take a quick trip over to bigworldmadesmall.com and join our private adventure travel community to receive new episode notifications, special access to our guest experts, and perhaps even some exclusive partner offers that we haven't discussed on the podcast. I'll publish another episode soon. Until then, keep exploring. It's the best way to make a big world feel just a bit smaller.